There. Why am I not there? Greetings, everyone, and welcome once again to another Wednesday night right here at the Sportz Krib. I see I got a full house tonight, and Don said he'll be a little late, but I got Dave here. Dave, how we doing this evening?
Doing okay. Glad to be back.
Demetrius.
How you guys doing? Good to see you again, Dave.
Hey, Demetrius.
Oh my goodness, is Demetrius wearing a Tiger shirt?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Hey, gotta represent. Gotta represent. Let's see what's Reggie sporting here.
What is going on, guys? Glad to see you. Glad to be with you once again. Gang's back together again, guys.
Absolutely.
It just feels great. It feels great.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Bo was here. I don't know exactly where he went, but I'm sure he'll pop back in here in a minute. So, Demetrius, glad to have you back in the house. You and Dave, the world travelers here. But me and Reggie held the fort down. We did what we had to do.
I'm sure you guys did.
So, quite a few Black Sox subjects tonight for me. And I'm glad that there's Bo. I knew he was here. I saw him there. All right, there's Bo.
Hey, Bo.
So I decided that I was going to start out the show this evening with a little baseball. And of course, that's because I always know that Demetrius is going to be here. So we got to have a little baseball. But before we get on to that, Dave, do we have a Sue's Corner tonight?
Indeed, we do.
All right.
So she's talking about the NFL this time. So this year's NFL season will feature the return of one of the best sibling rivalries at any level in any sport, the Harbaugh brothers coaching one. Now, I'm not exactly a fan of the brothers, but only in a sense because they are just too good at what they do. I would be a huge fan of them if they coached for one of my favorite teams. To be honest, John, older by 1 year, and Jim came by their coaching skills naturally. Their dad, 85-year-old Jack, has 41 years coaching experience. They were raised in an old-fashioned, strong Catholic household where if the shenanigans between the brothers got out of hand, Jack would smack their foreheads together. That might explain it.
Oh, there it is. And there it is.
I've seen that move in person, and believe me, it's effective. That's Sue. Of course, everyone remembers the last time these two met. In the Super Bowl in 2013, when the Ravens defeated the 49ers. This year, they will meet on November 25th, ironically on their parents' 63rd wedding anniversary. They are a very close-knit family, and they text and talk on the phone regularly. But their primary source of communication is a Wordle group chat. 17 Harbaughs compete in the game daily, along with connections in the mini crossword. It will be interesting to see how the season plays out. But regardless, these brothers have each other's backs, unless, of course, they are on opposing sidelines. So that's Sue's Corner. And I don't like the Harbaughs, but they are good coaches. I mean, you can't deny the success that they've had.
Yeah. I mean,
I'd be talking trash in that Wordle.
Yeah,
Dropping words, just sending barbs.
I'm sure they're such a competitive family that I'm sure they are.
Yeah, for sure.
It sounds like the way the Harbaughs would communicate, right? I call my brother. I text my sister. No, not the Harbaughs. Nope. We're going to be in a Wordle chat. All right. Bill Carroll.
What's up, Bill? How you doing this evening?
Hey.
It's been a rather interesting last several days. I hope everyone's doing well.
Okay.
Got a full house in here today.
Yeah,
Yes,
man.
sir. So, as I said, we're going to start out with a little baseball here. One for the historians. My first Black Sox here. Catcher Danny Jensen played for both teams in one game. Didn't we do that when Johnny had to go home every day? I mean, I don't see the big deal. He didn't change positions. He just changed teams. He's still a catcher, but maybe it's just me. Bo.
I mean, he got to catch for his own pinch hitter. So that's kind of interesting, right? Like he was at the plate when it gets rained out, and then they have to get a pinch hitter because he's not on the team. And so he got to catch for his own at bat. I mean, that's funny.
Yeah. Demetrius.
So this is that I know it's early and it's your fault. You should have put this later. This is that dumb shit that my game does that really pisses me off, right? You can't fix Armando Galarraga's perfect game from 2010. You can't figure out something to do about Pete Rose and getting Negro League players in the Hall of Fame at the appropriate time. But you go out and do dumb shit like this. It's not the same game. That game was 2 months ago. What the hell are we talking about? The two games. You can't let him play today or whenever day this was. All you got to do is he can't play. And then your books are fine. They got to play somebody else at catcher for the rest of that game, and your books are fine. But they'll do this dumb stuff. And then ESPN and all these idiots who wear white socks. Oh, he played in the same game. He did not. He played in 2 games 2 months apart. That's what actually happened. And this is the stuff that pisses me off. But no, you can't shift. Oh, let's put a runner on second base in the 10th inning. And then you do this. I wish you had put this after 9 o'clock.
I just love that they keep stats on everything. Like he's 2-0 with a blue sky against batters with green eyes. Like you're just like, who cares?
Oh my God.
Bill, what do you think?
There are times when you make me follow Demetrius, and I think you do it because you're mad at me. So I would love to wax eloquent about the beauties of the game, how it is bucolic and pastoral in a time when we've become too mechanized, too disconnected from reality, and too disconnected from nature to the point that people literally say to each other, touch grass. But unfortunately, this is a time when I have to agree with Demetrius and say, what the hell are we doing here? This is just goofy. Like, this is goofy with a capital G. This is goofy with a goofy. Everything about this is dumb. And I hate that we're talking about it. The more I talk about it, the more I feel like we should not be talking about it. But here we are. Baseball is
history. Come on.
Baseball is in and of itself truly a special game. And despite the fact that this is a waste of your time, my time, and we are all going to be dumber for having spent time talking about this, the game is still beautiful and wonderful, to be preserved. But this particular instance should not be. It should be stripped from our minds. They should bring the machinery from Men in Black and take it out of everyone's brains. Can we move on now, please?
Right. We don't get Reggie for the whole damn show. We done wasted 5 good minutes with Reggie on this bullshit. That's all I'm saying.
I could not have put it any better than Bill just did. I was really hoping that we were going to move on as soon as Bill just kind of segued us into a different subject. I was kind of hoping that we were going to ride that wave into that different subject.
Okay, guys.
Sorry, Dave.
No, so that leads us right into Dave, unless Dave wants to comment on this BS too. But
I don't think it's a big deal.
Right.
I mean, they're churning, they're getting publicity out of it. Right. Good for them.
It's a slow news day.
Dave, Mr. Bonds, Leland, and Sanguin were welcomed into the Pirates Hall of Fame. You got a 33-year-old Bradley Fiegel. He gets his shot at the big leagues. And there's a connection between the Air Force and Mr. Skinner. What's going on up there in Pittsburgh, Dave?
Yeah, first with the Hall of Fame, it's only a couple years old. I think the inaugural class was in 2022. They brought in 19 players, but 4 of the players never played for the Pirates that are in the Pirates Hall of Fame. And that's because the Pirates Hall of Fame also honors the Negro Leagues, the Pittsburgh Crawdads and the Grays. So Josh Gibson, Oscar Charleston, Ray Brown, and Buck Leonard were part of their inaugural class. The 3 guys, I have no problems with it. Leland, he was the manager for 11 seasons. He's third most. Only Danny Murtaugh and Fred Clark, who managed in the early 1900s, have managed more seasons with the Pirates, and he led them to 3 division titles. Manny Sanguillen played 12 of his 13 years with the Pirates. The thing that's notable about Manny Sanguillen is actually outside of the game, but whenever Roberto Clemente was lost and they realized that he had probably died, and this was weeks after the airplane crash, but the team held a memorial service for Roberto Clemente. Manny Sanguillen was the only teammate not there. And the reason he wasn't there was he was down outside of Puerto Rico diving, looking for his friend Roberto Clemente.
Interesting.
And he's just one of these guys, a smiling guy. He loved to swing at anything. The best place to pitch to him was right down the middle, because there'd be balls like skipping off the ground, and then he'd be making contact with them. It was pretty amazing to watch. And with Bonds, his first 7 years were with the Pirates, most notably, San Francisco. But his first 7 years, he's kind of salty about not being in the Hall of Fame. And he had a great career. There's the allegations of him, juicing, but he never flunked a test, which is kind of ironic. But what Bonds said at the induction ceremony was that Pittsburgh fans booed us when we needed it, but thanks for cheering us when we most needed it. And so he seemed to be thankful that he was getting some recognition for a great career. So that's the Hall of Fame. You had mentioned this Brady Feigley in your thing. He did have his major league debut, 33 years old. And he had his National League debut, Major League debut. He gave up like 6 runs in 1 2/3 innings. And he has like a 32.8 ERA. But even if that's the only time he ever pitches in the major leagues, guess what? He'll always be known as a major leaguer. He made it. Yeah. And so for that, I kind of have my hats off to him. Now, an interesting sideline with this Feigley is that he has a doppelganger. There's another Brady Feigley. They spell their name the same way, Feigl. If you see their pictures side by side, they look like twin brothers. They're both like 6'4". They both played minor league baseball. They both had Tommy John surgery from the same surgeon. And then when they did a DNA test, they both had 53% German ancestry from their DNA test.
So they're brothers.
You know what? They're not related.
They are related. Everything you just said screams they're related.
Person. They're the
I
same
don't care
human being.
about right. I don't care about that.
Going on.
They're not related.
I just some hard questions around Thanksgiving dinner tables in that household.
If you ask somebody why do you think these two people are related, everything you just said is the answer.
But they're not according to the DNA, which is amazing. But anyway, the Pirates it looks so hopeful around the All-Star break, and all of a sudden their pitching just fell apart. They're losing games 14-10. Giving up, they're bringing in a first baseman, Rowdy Tellez, to close games, a first baseman. So I think they're very close to having the fork stuck into them for this.
Speaking of forks, your Mariners have lost 7 of the last 10.
Big move, guys.
That was cold, man. Wow. It ain't even 9 o'clock yet.
Speaking of tools,
You're not wrong though. So these are knee-high socks right here. So this is the thing that's frustrating about this Mariners team, and they are, they're 3.5 games out behind the Astros, but they are leading the majors in pitching, absolutely crushing it, and then they are dead last in hitting in every imaginable way. Wow. So the fact that they're even still in this conversation is crazy. They have almost 70 more strikeouts than the next worst team, right? Oh. So, which is nuts. If you go to the bottom 5, that 5th team is 150 less strikeouts than the Mariners. The Mariners are averaging 10.7 strikeouts a game.
Yikes.
I mean, wow.
Wow.
They have a team batting average of 215. It is insanely bad. You have a designated hitter, and by definition, what is the one thing they're supposed to be good at? Right?
You have one job.
You have one job, yeah. For sure.
Exactly. Right? Like you hit the damn ball. 167.
Ooh, goodness.
Our all-star.
Pitcher. Are pitchers still hitting there? Or
right.
Dude, pitchers hit better than that. So then we have our all-star, right? We got Julio, supposed to be that dude. He is 1 in 21 of his last 25. He's batting a 40, not a 140, an 040 in his last 25 plate appearances. The fact that they're only 3.5 games out is a testament to how amazing the pitching has been. Yeah. We have Logan Gilbert, that his whip is under 1, right? It's a .90. He's going to be the first one since 1910 to have a losing record.
Wow.
With less than a 1 whip.
That's bad.
Should never happen. So yeah, I saw this on the docket, and I was just like, okay, well, I mean, I'm just going to put on a Costco bag of socks because what is happening with my team?
You know what's odd though, Bo, is your team came into the day 67 and 66, 5.5 games out of the wild card race.
Yes.
There's another team that came into the day 67 and 66, 5.5 games out of the wild card. They've won 8 of 10, 5 in a row, and they're leading tonight. But we ain't talking about them. I'm sorry. I got a little bit.
I mean, the M's won tonight.
Oh, yeah. We're up right now. So, but the thing is, I feel great about my team, and you are really mad. So that's a weird thing.
So there's a distinct difference between your team and mine, though, because you're playing complete baseball.
Yeah. Right?
Your batting is complementing your pitching. Now, your pitching isn't as good as ours, right, but your batters got off the bus.
Exactly.
Which is, helpful.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas ours, we are 4th in walks. So what that tells us is they're not even picking the bat off their shoulder. Yeah. Right? Like they're just like, you know what? If I stand here long enough, I'm either going to be out or on base. It's frustrating to watch. And as you went into the trade deadline, they get rid of Ty France, who was our second best hitter. So you're like, okay, we're going to make a move, right? You did that to free up some cash. Maybe you're going after Bellinger, something smart. Instead, we bring in Randy that has the exact same stat line. What? So yeah. So no, I'm not bitter about it at all.
I can tell.
But yeah, no, it's a rough spot to be in. They're within striking distance, but that being said, it's the Mariners, and this is the roller coaster ride we're on. So now we're going to be in that rotation of, if we'd only won a few more games early in the year, we could be in the playoffs. So, that's about it. That's about it. If their bats can ever come together, the pitching will carry.
Well, Robert Wardell in the comments is saying, "You wait, Dan going to get this team on a 20-game win streak."
Nice.
That would be amazing, considering there's only 29 games left.
Reg,
Yes, sir.
is 5 months too small a sample to put Juan Soto and Aaron Judge in the best 1-2 conversation?
Of course it is. Look at the history of baseball. I don't even know if they're the best 1-2 in the Yankee history. Like, are you like, even if you I feel like it's too, baseball has been around too long. You're not talking about a sport that's been around for like 3-4 years to take a 5-month sample size and say anything about it. It's a 5-month sample size. I mean,
so for reference, here's a couple of guys that hit back-to-back in various Yankee orders. A guy named Ruth and Gehrig back in the day.
Yeah.
Somebody might be familiar
They're not
with
bums.
Bale and Roger Barris, who combined for 120. No, it's more.
115.
No,
Yeah,
wait, hold on.
Derek and Ruth are considered, I believe, the gold standard. Anything under them is.
Which is pretty much everything else, as a matter of fact, especially in Yankee history.
61, Maris and Manning did 150.
In 150, right. 100 runs at 154 game season combined. So in Yankee history, you can probably top those guys with at least 2 or 3 back-to-back hitters.
Yeah. I like how Reggie just cuts right to the chase. They're not even the best on their own team. Yep.
They're not. Not even Yankee history.
Really, but now, to your question, maybe. I don't think so. Because I always think of these secondary things like the conditions they played in. Ruth and Gehrig and these guys had to have second jobs. And they played with crappy equipment. And they didn't have personal trainers. And they didn't have
and how many years did they do
flights. Right, and shorter games in the season. Yeah, so if you really go, and I'll put on 3 pairs of Black Sox, just look at 1927 and look at 1961, and this conversation kind of shut down quick. So it's cute what they're doing, but Soto's going to have to hit 50. That's if Judge gets to like 65 or 66 to catch Maris and Mano at 61. And that's a big ask because he's about to start getting the Bonds treatment, by the way. He's going to see a bunch of walks. I'm not pitching to him. He's about to get treated differently the rest of the season. So it's a cute story. But
since we got the reference section on the show tonight, what did McGuire and Canseco do back to back?
That wasn't too shabby.
No, it's a duo though. He's talking 1-2. And neither of those guys had anybody the level of Juan Soto. Bill and Reggie got it. The references are Maris and Mano in 61, Ruth and Gehrig in 27.
No, I get that.
That's the comment.
I mean, but it was a fun duo to watch too, and they mashed some balls out.
No, we're talking same team though. He's talking 2 guys on the same team.
Yeah,
I didn't misunderstand that, right? Yeah. So there was nobody with McGuire that carried any luggage that gets them into this conversation.
Canseco had a couple of pretty good years.
Canseco had a 40 home run year.
I'm sorry. You mean McGuire and Canseco together? I don't think they got close. They didn't get close to this, did they? 89, 90?
No,
they weren't bums. They were called Smash Bros for a reason. I think that was their name, right? They were called Smash Brothers.
Bash Brothers.
Bash Brothers for a reason. You get that nickname,
Yeah.
Imagine if Mano could have juiced. That's a whole nother podcast. if Mickey Mantle would have been juicy, switch it. Oh my God!
I mean,
or if Babe Ruth had modern athletic, training conditions.
Yeah. It wasn't hungover every day. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mantle was on a very different kind of juice.
That's true.
I got to ask you guys, and I know I didn't put it in any of the credits here, but anybody in the Negro Leagues 1-2?
There have been a couple of great Negro League combinations in terms of
Oh,
Damn, lost him in the middle.
just when it was getting good.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
There we go.
If anybody,
I was waiting for the end of that, man, and it kind of froze right there.
yeah, I mean, if anybody knew, I thought,
That was actually Bill just looking it up. He was like, "Oh, let me freeze the camera for a sec."
Well, I don't mind saying I'd have to look it up. I would check one of those Josh Gibson years, and probably, but they didn't play enough.
Just pair anybody with Josh Gibson. Is that
Right,
what you just?
Exactly. That's where I would start. Who played? Who hit in front of Josh Gibson? And I don't think they played enough games to do it.
The Grays, in particular.
Yeah. They just didn't play enough games, not to match a season.
Are you back, Bill?
He's back.
Am I?
Yeah, you are.
Okay.
He's looking it up. He took his glasses off. You know he's serious.
I was checking on a few things to see if my settings were okay.
Okay. All right. So let's dive into a little college football here. And I got a couple things here. Let's start out with Dave. Dave, the Penn State athletic director is getting a $2.26 million annual contract. But Dave, what about this new Big Ten, and what are your expectations for Penn State? While they were, kind of small, they were always kind of there in the hunt. What do you think? Are things going to be the same now that we're the Big 20? Have I lost count? 18?
Yeah.
Man called us the Big 20.
First with the athletic director, Patrick Kraft. Yeah, he got about $1 million a year increase in pay, which is pretty nice. But he's overseeing like $800 million in projects, including the renovation of Beaver Stadium. And then they have plans where he's laying out with like $1 billion worth of revenues with all the work that they're doing. So that, I think that they're trying to compensate him for what he's bringing into to Penn State. But in terms of the expectations, I think a lot of this rides on Drew Aller, the quarterback. How's he going to perform? And I don't know how the wide receivers are going to be. There's a lot of questions with Penn State because they've done a lot of recruiting, but they've lost they've lost people that had committed and then decommitted. So it's kind of hard to tell, but they got a good test against West Virginia University this week. And there's some people calling for an upset, West Virginia beating Penn State. But I think that that's a really good test. The thing is that Penn State has a really easy schedule. They're only playing in the regular season just 2 ranked teams. I think it's USC, that's like number 23, and Ohio State, number 2. So they're benefiting from the Big 18, where they're not having to play Michigan and Ohio State every year. So, they're not going to be, if they can get past WVU and USC, well, then their big game will be Ohio State. And then you get into their tournament. So we'll see. But I think that this West Virginia University will be a good evaluation of where they stand, though. But with that easy schedule, they should definitely, maybe Ohio State should be a loss, but on paper they should be like be a 1-loss team going into the tournament.
Okay. Demetrius, what about the effect of this Big Ten expansion on your alma mater? I think I'm going to call them the Big Almost 20.
Yeah, I like the Big 20. That's fine. The number doesn't matter, obviously. I think that in general, I know who my team is. I don't get on this podcast and talk about my team like they're something other than what they are. I think for us, what it is, the conference has more prestige. And so when Jonathan Smith is sitting in the living room, he can talk about matchups. Hey, we're going to play Oregon this year. Hey, we got USC and UCLA and all these teams in the conference now. So conference prestige is a big deal in recruiting. So it's gonna make everybody better. I think for us this year, we got 60 new players, 60. right? We got a new coach, we got a new quarterback, new everything. And we came out of an unmitigated shit show last year. What our former coach did was horrible. So I'm comfortable saying I don't know what we are. I just don't know. I'm going to see. It'll be entertaining. But in general, I like the expansion. I think obviously the SEC and the Big Ten have separated themselves. They are the two conferences. I think it'll help recruiting, and the next TV deal will be even more lucrative than the $8 billion deal they signed 2 years ago. So for the conference as a whole, this was going to happen. This was the way. And so what these bigger deals and these bigger conferences do is they give you more money to pay the kids, to pay the players. Shocking. And ultimately, when we start winning games, I like where we're going. We'll be fine. We'll take our shot every few years and end up in that playoff somehow. But I know who we are. But impact in general, I think is good for the game. I think it's good for the kids, and ultimately, I think it'll be good for my school. I like it. I've never been the one trying to say, "Oh, let's go back." I don't care. I don't care what bowl we go to. We can go to the Bluegrass Bowl. I might fly down there. Wherever the hell the Bluegrass Bowl is, I might fly down there. Who knows?
Bring your clogging shoes, Demetrius.
I like the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Exactly.
Pop-Tart.
Yes. I'm going to Pitbull Bowl. That's got to be in Miami, right? That might be.
Yes.
What I want to see is more edible mascots across the board.
Right.
The Mosquitoes Bowl had been there forever, right? So.
Nice.
All right, well, hey, look, here's my man Don. Don, how we doing this evening?
Don?
Hey, guys.
What's going on?
Shows up just in time for NFL talk. He timed it.
Right?
Oh, wait, we got to get the Pac 2 conversation. Sorry.
Yeah.
When it comes to my Huskies, I'm actually right there with you with the Big Ten.
Okay, good. All right.
But as far as the Pac-12, I mean, they're just riding out the last 2 years of guaranteed money, and then they're going to end up in a different conference.
Yeah.
Like there's no way they're trying to resurrect this thing. They're not going to blend Mountain West and those two schools. That doesn't help either one of them out. I'll be really surprised if somehow those two schools don't end up in the Big Ten to try and keep some semblance of rivalries.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then it would be the Big 20.
It will be the Big 20, exactly.
And thus the Pac-20 is born. Reggie, what's going on with your Alabama boys there? What's going to be considered a successful season for Roll Tide?
I'm going to move us on to the NFL pretty quickly here by saying we expect the playoffs and we expect to win because we are Alabama fans, and this will become accustomed to. Of course, we expect to win every single game we play. But if you're being a realistic fan, we got a new coach. We're in the same division here with Georgia. It's going to be an uphill battle, in my opinion. As just a realistic fan, it's going to be an uphill battle. It's he did it in Washington, but we got to see if he can do it here. And with transfer portal, things can change very quickly for a lot of teams, kind of overnight, over one season. Things change very quickly. So if you're a realistic fan, then you're hoping that we can get into the playoffs, have a winning season. That's kind of what you're hoping for. But if you're your typical Alabama fan, we just expect to win. We expect to win every game we ever play.
Which one
Absolutely.
are you, and what's the record? I'm
gonna say I'm in the middle, and I'm hoping just for double digits, man. We get to 10 wins. I'm popping bottles over here with a new coach. I'm excited. I'm excited at 10 wins.
Right.
So I'll take that.
You're far more optimistic than me. For the Huskies, I'm like, can we be bowl game eligible? Like that'd be rad.
Exactly. The R&L Carriers Bowl.
Right.
Don, what's your expectations? You expecting to knock Alabama out that spot?
Oh, we got the Don 4-second delay.
Oh yeah.
Nope, we don't have. Just beat Michigan week 2. That's all Don needs to do. I don't care about the rest. I don't care about the rest of Texas' schedule. Just beat Michigan week 2. We do not have Don.
I feel like Don's on a moon base. Like this is
Do you hear us, Don?
We see his eyes moving. We see you moving, bro. All right. We're going to start giving him hand gestures.
All right. Well,
I like Robert's. I like Robert's comment here. Timu Internet. Oh, Boston.
Yeah,
did you
'cause
kick him
that
out?
actually is better, guys. Because if he is just sitting here and he's not listening to the show, like, what are you doing? Like, if you're just sitting here on camera and you're not listening to what we're doing here, like,
No,
I'm actually glad he just left, man. I'm glad he did. That makes me feel a bit better.
He can
That's right.
usually hear us, but we'll see. So anyway,
So you're saying, Reggie, that if Don's bettering himself by listening to a TED Talk, you'd be disappointed?
Luckily, he was up.
I just like the way that it exited.
There
In.
he is.
It was Cartman. It was like, screw you guys, I'm going home.
Don, can you hear us? Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, you got it.
There he is.
It's fine. It's fine.
Don,
First-
can
There we
you
go.
hear us?
First to Major Don.
Can you hear us, Don?
Yeah, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
There we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, what's your expectations?
I hear you.
What's your expectations
Well,
for Texas? You intended to knock Alabama out this season? 3, 2.
Well, we don't play Alabama this year. So we do play Georgia. But, it's very possible we could play Alabama, beat them in the playoffs or the SEC championship game. But it's very possible we can play Georgia 3 times. I don't know if I knew that because we play them at home, and then if we get them the championship game, and then we might get them in the playoffs. So very possible we'll do a 3 on Georgia. But it's possible we can play Alabama, but I'm not thinking that's going to.
No, not if you're planning on playing Georgia 3 times. You
No. It's a long season.
All right, guys, let's jump here into the NFL. And I'm going to start off with the Players Union. Decided that they didn't want to change the ruling of the third string quarterback. He must be a part of the 53-man roster. He cannot come off the taxi squad, and I believe there's a limited number of times that he can be called up. So I'm going to start with our rules committee here. Bill.
Well, I do miss the old days of the roster exemption for the emergency or whatever you call him quarterback. It helps teams in 2 ways. One is if you had a quarterback, I'll use an example of Jason Bean. People like me watch all the preseason games. You remember how exciting it was watching Jason Bean when he was playing for the Colts. And I'll be honest, when he was coming out of Kansas, I called him RG3 Light. And down to the high-end track background and playing in the Big 12 back when the Big 12 was Big 12. And he was electric at times, but obviously an inconsistent passer. But he looks like he worked on his passing mechanics. He looked better than I've ever seen him consistently in the preseason. And if the Colts wanted to carry him, they would have had to carry three quarterbacks that would count against their 50. And just so you know, they carried 10 offensive and 10 defensive linemen. That's 37.7% of their roster just between the 2 lines. And so when that happens, it makes it less likely you carry a third quarterback or carry an extra receiver or carry an extra defensive back because they've been hurt before, as you may have heard, among the offensive line, and decided, you're not getting me again this year. Get thee behind me, Satan. So they ended up not being able to carry Jason Bean. Jason Bean was waived and could have belonged to another team. Now, whether he becomes an NFL, even a high-level backup, is still very much up for debate. But he's a truly interesting player. A guy who can run that fast and is showing you some upside as a passer is a guy you normally want to keep on your roster. But like I said, especially with Anthony Richardson, of course, who's shown he can be a little reckless. Now, maybe he's fixed that. But they instead went with the experienced and frankly less exciting Joe Flacco, who has 17 years in, and then 4 years in for Sam Ehlinger as backups because they wanted, I guess, experienced quarterbacks around him, not another young, exciting guy. But yes, I do wish they bring back the ability to carry an extra quarterback and not have it count against your roster number, because the NFL has.
But we got to give Bo and some of the other guys a chance.
The NFL's not done a great job of developing young quarterbacks, and that might help. Yep, done.
Bo.
I mean, if we learned anything from last year where everybody got hurt, we only had roughly 70 different starters. Yeah, I mean, having an extra guy out there wouldn't be terrible. Some of these teams are carrying a third and they're just burning the roster spot with it. But I mean, with the way that practice and preseason has made offensive line not great anymore, you probably need that third spot because these guys get hit a lot.
Dave, what do you think? The Browns are carrying 4 quarterbacks.
Yeah. I guess we'll be talking about that in a couple minutes. But, the Steelers have traditionally carried 3 quarterbacks, even with the new rule. The 1 year that they only carried 2, they did that 1 year. That's when Ben got hurt. and you had Duck Hodges throwing the ball. So I kind of like what the union has done here because it's forcing teams to make a decision. Are we going to carry 2 or 3? And they can still have the emergency quarterback. He doesn't have to be active. He can be on the inactive list as long as he's on the 53-man roster. And then he would be dressed if both the other quarterbacks went out. So I'm actually fine with it because it forces the teams to make a harder decision. Are we going to keep 2 and take the risk, or are we going to carry 3 and have that third guy on the inactive roster? And that's what the Steelers, they learned their lesson back whenever Ben got hurt, and even before that, they always had 3, and certainly after that, since that happened, they've always carried 3.
Don, can we get you in here?
Yeah, I'm back.
Oh.
Bad connection as usual, but I'm back right now. Enjoy it while you can.
So, what's your thought on this third quarterback situation?
Well, I like it. I mean, like Dave was saying, the Steelers have been doing it for a while. The Cowboys did it. I remember they had Roger Staubach, Danny White, and Glenn Crono. So I remember those days. But I guess it's each team. But I've always been in favor of expanding the roster to 55 anyway. If that extra man's a quarterback, and then you could have a maybe utility offensive lineman. But 53 just seems to become an arbitrary number. So I always thought they should increase it, maybe 2 or 3 more players. But by the way, that's coming in college. By the way, they're about to increase the scholarships in college. So maybe that's a trend.
So we're going to have 200-man teams and 20 school conferences. So Reggie,
am I going on that subject? The 3 quarterback subject?
Yes.
I'm a fan of roster expansion, kind of like what Don just said. If we were going to expand a couple of members, to 55 from 53, I don't think that's crazy. At the same time, I don't. From a fan standpoint, if you're just like a general fan, I don't think this is something that you just go around thinking about. To be honest with you, if your favorite team has 3 quarterbacks, that's a disaster. So you hope that your team has one guy that is competent, that can go out there and be there week to week from an average fan standpoint. So I don't think they're noticing how much some of these quarterbacks are going down, or how many backup quarterbacks. We saw a ton of backup quarterbacks play last year. I don't know if it was a record, but it was a ton of them that played last year. So I can get from like a roster construction standpoint why this may be attractive, but I don't know if the general fan really cares that much.
Demetrius.
I hate to be that guy, but so my grandmother was born in Talladega, Alabama. Her name was Mary. And she used to tell us, don't fall for the okie doke. Don't fall for the okie doke. This is classic okie doke. Teams, this is what I think, and I might be wrong. Dave kind of touched on it. So the Buffalo dude that proposed this used some crap language. I read this, and I can't remember exactly what it is. You don't want a non-bona fide quarterback playing because it's detrimental to the quality of the game. Is it 9 o'clock? Damn. Okay, I'm gonna say that's crap. The reality is this.
I think I started it out
after
dark.
All right, the veterans minimum is $795,000, guys. Yeah. Practice squad dudes make 16 to 20 a week. It's a big number when you add it up. This league, we know this league. Everything's about money. Why do we think this is about anything other than money? Teams would love to carry 3 quarterbacks. Every team would like, but $795 is the league minimum for a dude on the roster. If you can stash a quarterback on the practice squad and pay him 16 to 18 grand a week, even if he's there the whole season, it's like $500,000 difference. That's what this is about. And the union knows that. And this is the exact job of the union. This is what the Players Association is there for. This kind of okie doke BS. Because that's what I think it is. Because it makes too much sense. 6 really smart dudes on this podcast just all said, we'd love to carry another quarterback. It's about money, right? That's what it's about.
But Demetrius, if you didn't have the quarterback on there, you'd have another player making the league minimum. So they're still spending the money.
No. But in this rule, you get to stash your quarterback. You get to stash an extra quarterback on the
you're talking about the 2. Right.
Now you're stashing a quarterback on the practice squad because they're talking specifically having an extra quarterback. And then some of it's about Brock Purdy going back in after Josh Johnson got his bell rung, whatever. The whole thing about stashing a quarterback there is that's $500,000. That's what it is. Or it's like probably more than that, actually. Because if he's on the roster, whether it's 53 or 54, whatever it is, you got to pay him minimum $795. If it's a quarterback, you're probably paying that dude a lot more than $795. Because that's league minimum for a third string linebacker. League minimum for a third string quarterback is probably higher than that. I'm not trying to be the skeptic. I think this is a money thing.
Very logical take there, for sure.
It's always a money thing.
With that league, I'm not even mad at them, but they're not tricking me. I know what you guys are about.
Okay, Demetrius, I'm giving you first shot at this because you might disagree with me here, but for me, black socks, black shoes, black tie,
all black.
Black mask, black all everything.
Goodness gracious.
The Hall of Fame has revised its bylaws governing the annual selection process. Now, just a coincidence that Bill Belichick would be eligible for the next Hall of Fame class? Bullshit. Well, So I mean, go ahead, Demetrius. Maybe it's just me.
You have a point. You definitely have a point. I don't think I care though. I don't know if anybody cares. Reggie said something earlier about most people don't give a damn. I think this goes back to Joe Gibbs and maybe it was Paul Brown. Bill will correct me if I'm wrong. They had retired, got enshrined, and then came back to coach years later. I know Gibbs was one. There was somebody else I think before that. But this is I don't know who cares. I got on 2 pairs of black socks. I don't care about this. I don't care if a guy is in the Hall of Fame and he coaches again. Who actually cares about that? What difference does that make? So if Belichick gets enshrined, but 5 years always seemed ridiculous for players. If a guy submits his paperwork, you make a rule. You submit your paperwork, you can't ever play again. Put him in the next year. If he gets voted and he's eligible and everybody agrees, I don't need him to wait. Why are we waiting 5 years? So I don't, my honest thing is I think they just want to put these guys in before they die, is my guess, as morbid as that sounds. It's probably fine. I wonder if any of the other 6 guys on this podcast give a damn. I'm going to shut up because I want to know if you guys care. Because I just don't.
Well,
I was going to say, I'll go second right there. No, I don't.
Carol would be part of it. Go ahead. Go ahead, Bo.
No, that was it. I think it's dumb. If you're, that's it. It just doesn't make any sense not to, if you, as a player, if you're done, be eligible.
Yeah.
Reggie.
I think this is very stupid. If his name isn't Bill Johnson and it turns back to Bill Belichick 5 years from now. His name was Bill Belichick the moment he stepped out of the game. And if we were talking about some random ass person, then maybe I get this. But who cares if he goes? Look at the Super Bowls. Look at his record. He's going in 5 years, 5 minutes from retirement. It's the worst kept secret in the world that he's going to be a Hall of Famer.
He's going.
Like, do we have to wait till 5 years? There's somebody out there that's not convinced that that the 5 years it's going to take them time through that 5 years. They work through it and then they come back like, you know what? I've looked at it and I think he deserves to be in. No, this is very stupid, and I don't know why it matters with this guy.
They could have handed him his gold jacket at his exit interview.
Correct.
Everyone
was already hanging up here.
Okay.
Some dude changes his mind in 5 years. Okay, I got it. That's great.
Don, we got you in here?
Yep. 4 seconds.
Yep.
In here.
I'm here for now.
Okay. What's your thought about this change in Hall of Fame rules?
But,
Was it a Belichick special or what?
that's one way of looking at it. If they change it now, that's fine. But make sure the change is permanent. Don't change it later. Just just be consistent. I don't care one way or the other, to be honest. I mean, it's not affecting my life. But I'm just saying, be consistent and, keep everything equal, and we'll be all fine and happy.
Bill.
One of the things that has been explained to me when I've talked to, the Ray Didingers and not Ray Didinger, Ray Horrigan and are they both named Ray? I can't remember. But the point is that people involved in the Hall of Fame process always talk to you about why certain things happen. And yes, for players, they want to make sure that the player's definitely done. And obviously, if 5 years have gone by and you haven't come back and played, then yeah, we feel pretty good about you being done. Two, the other thing is that they've got a backlog of players, right? So when the Hall of Fame is founded, they've got a couple of decades worth of players who have played, and they're playing catch up at that point. So when players retire, they're very much in the front of everyone's mind. And for those who are not familiar, which is probably everyone is, but it's something called recency bias. And so very often, right after a player's retired, especially if that player's been a really great player, there's a lot of sentiment to put them right in the Hall of Fame. And the problem with that is you also have these players who are backlogged behind them. If you keep front filling with players who just retired, or coaches or anybody who's just retired, now your backlog problem exacerbates and gets worse and worse and worse. And now you end up with even more people, players, contributors, as they call the non-players and non-coaches, being pushed now into this very much overloaded seniors committee. And I have written multiple articles about the seniors committee and why it needs to be overhauled and revamped and things like that. While I understand the sentiment to get away from having any sort of waiting period, it will have the classic law of unintended consequences, where we're going to, with on the back end, more people dying waiting to get in the Hall of Fame rather than less.
Isn't that an easy fix, though, Bill? Can't you just have a rule that says you can put in 2 players who retired in the last 5 years, 2 players between 5 and 10 years, and 2 players 10 years or more? Isn't that an easy ass fix, right? I feel like it's not a difficult
coming from
the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame can do whatever they want, and they've changed the rules before. And and if they have a special circumstance or they want to waive the 5-year waiting period for a player, they can do that. They can do whatever they want. The irony is, if this was especially for Bill Belichick, now he was a great coach, but. And it's a big but, he almost single-handedly undermined the entire credibility of the competitiveness of the league. And people forget what happened way back in the early 2000s when Senator Arlen Specter was threatening to have Senate hearings over the NFL and the cheating scandals that they had.
Yes.
And then Roger Goodell, he destroyed the evidence. They slapped the Patriots on the hand. They fined them some money. They took some draft choices, and they penalized them for a game. For what they proved to be a game. and then they destroyed the evidence because in Roger Goodell's mind, it confirmed what I already knew about the issue, so I destroyed the evidence. But what that did is that prevented the Philadelphia Eagles from investigating, well, did they cheat in our Super Bowl? It prevented the Steelers from investigating, did they cheat in that AFC championship game? And so I find a lot of irony if this was especially for Bill Belichick. Now, he's a great coach. I respect his historical knowledge, but you can't erase that history.
So quick question. So you think that there is somebody, sorry, Bo, there's somebody who right now would not put him in, to Reggie's point, and 5 years from now, time will have passed and they will change their mind?
Oh, he's going to go in.
He's going in.
They swept that under the rug. They want the NFL doesn't want anybody in the ESPN. They don't want anybody to bring that, to churn that up.
Yeah, because
it's history.
Bill's backlog point is legit, but I think Reggie said it best. Usually, when somebody's done, we know if they're good enough to be in or not. Right. And I think the rest of this is just, I mean,
like Mike before he went to the Wizards. We knew Mike before he went to the Wizards was still Mike.
Right.
You know what I mean? You're going in.
But I think this is, like you said, they can do whatever they want. That's the irony. Is they can do whatever they want.
I mean, I look at it this way. You're talking about all the times he got caught cheating. Isn't this just a way for him to cheat to get in early? Man, do it.
How fitting is that, right?
Can't be stopped. Like, bad boy. Can't stop, won't stop.
That's what I'm saying.
I hope when they do his bust is like got a clicker and like a little binocular spyglass
and a hood with a hood hanging out of the back. Yeah, I want his bust to have a hood so bad.
I'm sure it will. Reggie, the Falcons signed cornerback AJ Terrell to a $81 million contract here. 65.8 was fully guaranteed. I think that makes him the highest guaranteed amount of money going to a cornerback, I believe. But the Falcons lost their final preseason game, and I know people don't say it doesn't mean much, but Reggie, 31-0 to Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. Talk to me, Reggie. What's going on?
I mean, it's as to be expected. They played their starters. We didn't. So that's the kind of thing you expect from a team. They better destroy some of these other guys who are not going to have a spot on this roster just a week or so from now. So you should be destroying those guys. So I'm not really concerned about that. I'm happy about that, but I'm more happy about the Judon Simmons moves that we've made over the past week. Those are the moves that have the city excited. Everybody's happy about that. The strides the defense seems to have taken in general. In the AJ Terrell situation, is something that we knew was going to get done. It was. I mean, come on, we're not letting him walk out of here. So, nothing to see here there.
Before you go, Bo, tell us about what's going on there with the Seahawks. You got Nuwaso with MCL sprain. You traded for Travis Gibson. And you cut P.J. Walker.
Yeah, moving on from Walker was not a shock. You know, he didn't perform all that great. Certainly didn't in practices. So for him to not make the roster did make sense. Nwosu, that was an unfortunate deal. That was a cut block that, I mean, the guy ducked his head right into his knee. And although technically legal, right, pulling guards are still allowed to cut block. They're the only ones that can still do it. But, you know, so there's no flag associated with it. But, I mean, of all of these things protecting players, the fact that you can still cut block and lead with a helmet is wild to me. That being said, he didn't get put on the 4-game IR. He has a 3 to 6 week, you know, time period. And, you know, 2 of those weeks are before the season starts. So they're thinking they can get him back by week 2, or at least they're hoping. Worst case scenario would be game 4, which would be the end of that, you know, IR period anyway. So that's why he didn't get listed on it. They're hoping they get him back early, but if not, it would be the same time period anyway. But Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting year. Got an explosive offense. We have a offensive line that looks, healthy so far, and a lot of question marks on defense. But the defense is hungry, and that is encouraging.
All right, well, hey, I know you have to go. Any final thoughts for us before you leave?
Yeah, football's finally back. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Take it easy, gentlemen.
All right, good to see you.
Take
both.
care, bro.
Yeah.
See you, Bo.
Reggie, I know it's about your time also. You got any final thoughts for us?
I think Bo just took my final thought. It's football. Football is back. I don't think I'm gonna be on next week, so I have to say it now, so that we can enjoy it all from this point forward. Football time, fantasy time. I still got a couple drafts left. I'm going right up to the wire here, man. I'm taking that thing right up to the what is it? The 5th is the first day. I think I got a draft on like the 3rd or so. So I'm taking it down to the wire here, man. A couple more drafts to get knocked out.
Week 1, Reggie. Week 1.
Yeah, I'm gonna be there, man. I'm gonna be there.
Great.
I'm hoping. Yeah, I'm not cheering for anybody. I'm gonna be just sitting there silent the entire time. I love both these teams. I can't do anything.
All right, man. Good having you. We'll talk to you soon, Reg.
All right, guys. See you. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Bye.
Take care.
All right. See you.
Okay. Let's start. Demetrius here. We're going to start with the 49ers. We got 36-year-old left tackle Trent Williams. Says he won't return to camp until he gets a new deal. Trent has made $150 million during his career. But is Trent the king of left tackles, Demetrius? And do you think he's going to get his bag?
He is a very, very good left tackle. I believe you said he made $150 million. There's the answer to that question. He's going to get a bag. It might not be the bag he wants, right? Here's the problem he has. He's got 3 years left on his deal. He just signed, right? That's the opposite of leverage. The leverage he has is what he's exercising now, which is I'm just not going to show up. And I think they right now he just looks and he's sitting at his house and his wife or somebody's over there going, "You're not the 6th best lineman in the league. That's disrespectful," right? That's what it is, right? Contracts caught up with him. Somebody made him aware that he's the 6th highest paid lineman in the league. He does not believe to himself that there are 5 dudes better than him. So I think their only way out of it, though, because they're not going to set a precedent and tear up 3 years. Dave or Bill can tell me if that's ever happened. I have never heard of a team tearing up 3 years on a deal. What they can do is accelerate some bonus money. They can flip some non-guaranteed stuff to guaranteed, and do something like that to get him a bag, a bigger bag. I believe most of this is he knows he is creme de la creme left tackles, but he's not being paid that. There's some dudes in front of him that he don't think are as good as him, and that's hard to go to sleep every night with friends and buddies and your uncle calling you. "I heard this dude's making more money than you." Like that kind of stuff happens, and he's dealing with that. So they're going to find a way to get that done, but they got to deal with Brandon first. Well, probably. I think they probably have to settle Ayuk before they can go back and mess with it. But he's got 3 years left on that thing. I don't. They're not tearing up 3 years. I would be stunned. But maybe. And he's 36. You might tear up 3 years for a 26-year-old. I don't know if you're going to tear up 3 years on a deal for a 36-year-old, but we'll see.
Don, you there with us?
I'm here.
What do you think about this?
Hey, I agree exactly what he just said. They'll probably try to find the money, but he's 36 years old. I mean, that's a tough age to be playing, professional football. Other linemen tend to be a little bit more durable than running backs and receivers, but but he is the GOAT of offensive linemen in recent years. So he's worth it to a point, but you said he already has a contract. He should honor it before he starts wanting more, but that's not the society we live in today.
Bill, your thoughts before you pass it on to Dave.
Contracts in the NFL are honored occasionally by teams and players. I'm not going to get on one side for not honoring the contract when players get cut all the time when they're under contract, and teams, people lose their job due to injury, and I mean all the things you hear don't happen all the time. So I'm not worried about that much of it. But the big number, as I mentioned most of the time, is 36, and he's already. I think he's one of only 3 players left from his entire draft class, and I think 2 of them might be kickers. So it is rather rare to play this deep at this level at almost any position except quarterback, possibly place kicker. Quite frankly, he is certainly the best of his era at his position. I think is what we can say fairly safely. In the post Joe Thomas, post who else? Whoever else you want to throw in that same sort of category.
Willie Rolfe and those guys. Yeah.
There we go. Right in the post Willie Rolfe, post Joe Thomas era. Right, that group, you could call them the best. But here's the thing. Yes, not only are they not going to, they're going to move some things around. That's what they're going to do. As was just already said, we can accelerate some things. We can convert some things. We can say, oh, well, this is now a roster bonus, and this is now this, and this is now that. But no, you're not going to do a whole new deal. First of all, once again, the contract he's already under keeps paying him until he's 39 years old. Right. You're not going to add more years because he will then be 40 or more. So no, that's not something you do. You don't give, once again, as been said before, the NFL doesn't pay you based on what you've done. The NFL pays you based on what you believe you're going to do. And the NFL, the front office, whether it is fair or not, is anticipating he's going to be less good every year going forward, because that is what my friend right above me, Demetrius, points out, that he's a numbers guy. Numbers say that 37-year-old football players are worse than 36-year-old football players. 36-year-old football players are, specifically speaking, worse than 35-year-old football players, right? This has been proven. There's a lot of data. So you don't pay someone more when they're going to decrease in value to you. You find a way to make them happy as best you can. But no, he's not getting a new deal because there's not enough new football left in this great play.
Right. New football. I like it.
Dave, you want to close this subject out?
Sure. I mean, my perspective on this is that the leverage that Trent Williams has is that the 49ers are trying to hold together a Super Bowl caliber roster. That's his leverage. And he's looking at this year and next. And I think, and I think Demetrius touched on it, I think it's about the guarantees because, he may have 3 years left on his contract, but if he gets hurt this year, well, then whatever's not guaranteed, he loses.
Exactly.
So I would imagine what he's trying to do is to get as much of that guaranteed. And San Francisco is like thinking, well, yeah, we need him this year and next, but we don't want to have to be paying for him in years 4, 5, and 6.
Yep.
And so I think that's where it comes down to. And the Brandon Ayuk situation may be impacting that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so. We'll see. I still got my fingers crossed, but I think he's still going to remain a 49er. But anyway, these next 2 questions are kind of dedicated to Mr. Scott, the language. Anyway, Dave, the Clowns running back Nick Chubb starts the season on the PUP list. How does this affect the play calling and the blocking schemes for Mr. Massage? And what do you think? The Clowns roster includes 4 quarterbacks. What are your thoughts there, Dave?
Well, I think number one is what's his name?
Rudy Ford.
Jerome Ford.
Jerome
Yeah,
Ford.
Jerome Ford.
yeah. He's he had 248 touches last year. They're going to be riding him, so I don't know if it's going to necessarily impact the play calling having Chubb on the list there. But here's the thing: is they got the 4 quarterbacks. I don't understand what they're doing. Maybe they're trying to make a trade. But I think part of what's going to happen that they have as many quarterbacks as they have running backs and tight ends combined. They only have 2 running backs and 2 tight ends on their roster right now, which is kind of insane. And it's like, well, I guess maybe they're planning on throwing balls to Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy and into the wide receivers all the time because they're very thin. So it's going to be interesting. I imagine that they'll be picking some people up here over the next few days, going through the waivers and the free agents that are available. But to me, that's amazing. You have as many quarterbacks as you have running backs and tight ends combined. That's clowns. Clown world.
Clowns being clowns.
Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I'm going to first of all agree. They're going to pick somebody else up at one or more likely both those positions, and at least one of those quarterbacks is either going to get, waived or depending where they are or released. How many years of service they have in the NFL, and or traded. That's the last thing that could happen. They potentially could be trying to trade for a tight end or running back. And of course, Rudy Ford was an NFL running back briefly from Auburn. Too many people named Ford in my head, but Jerome Ford played admirably, and they're not going to make any changes because he's not Nick Chubb, but stylistically, he's close enough. He's a simulacrum that they can do the same kinds of things, and so they're going to use him the same way they used him last year. He's going to be their primary running back, and I guess he's going to be close to a bell cow because, that term is one I've sort of retired almost from my vocabulary, but the Browns may come as close as any team in the NFL to doing that because of the sheer number of running backs they have on the roster now. They're probably going to look to bring someone in who is familiar with their system. So consider, people who they've had in the past and recently maybe had in the past on their team who already know what they like to do. And if those players are available, and some of them probably are because we just had cuts. In fact, some of them certainly are. I will not be surprised at all if, Dante Foreman or somebody who's familiar with their system returns to the fold.
What do you think, Demetrius?
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I think that you'll probably see Winston or Huntley get traded, would be my guess, because they could be of value somewhere for someone. I think you're almost certainly going to see Foreman or Jermaine Ifedi come back on the practice squad for running backs, and there's a young tight end named Welch that they like. So I think that's the way you do it. We just happen to be doing this podcast at a time where a lot of those things are happening. Now, some of that could have happened while we've been on the air, right? That's the kind of thing. The quarterback thing, to me, though, is like DTR, they like Dorian Thompson-Robinson. They like him a lot. And they weren't going to take a chance to try and slide him through waivers. So that's part of it. So I think they moved one of those other guys. And as far as Chubb, think about Chubb, I'm worried. I'm going to be honest with you guys because he had 2 different procedures, right? He had that injury week 2, and the first procedure was a medial capsule, a meniscus, and an MCL. Yes. Then, like in November, he had a second surgery on the ACL. That's a lot to come back from. So I think they're gonna lean on Ford, obviously. But like I said, like Bill said, Foreman's logical. They'll have to bring somebody else in to sort of fill the room because I think the Chubb injury was. I was worried when I heard about it. Like, is he ever going to be Nick Chubb again? We never know. But those are interesting moves. It's a timings thing. I don't think any of this changes their system. Their system's their system. Bill brought up a great point. The people they bring in or bring back will be people familiar with their system because you just, can't do that.
Don.
Yes.
Your thoughts here?
Well, I was kind of sad to see them let go of Dante Foreman. I've been a big Dante Foreman since he was in college, but you know, you need to balance out your roster, and carrying 4 quarterbacks and 2 running backs, that's not the way to do it. But like you said, you called them the clowns for a reason, right?
Okay, Don. Let's talk about the Cardinals. The Cardinals quarterback Kyler Murray, aka the world's tallest midget, has a new target in town. Don, what do you expect from the son of a Hall of Famer, Mr. Marvin Harrison Jr.? And do you think that fans and pundits are expecting too much out of the young rookie?
Well, anytime you start a rookie, you're going to have your highs and lows, peaks and valleys, whatever. I don't think that should be the number one concern for the Cardinals right now. That they need to, toughen up that defense just a little bit more. But that's just me speaking. But Kyler Murray, I mean, he's shown that he has bouts of greatness, and he gets things done sometimes. And I think having Harrison as a target, that's a good thing, but they just have to, work on their chemistry and some, great quarterbacks, receivers have a form of telepathy. With your Steelers, you saw that with Bradshaw and Starworth, right? Back in the day, it was, Montana and Rice, that stuff. So, if they can work that stuff out, it should be a little patch and pitch combo come down in the future. But it takes time to build that.
Bill, what's your thoughts? I'm sure you have a complete scouting report on Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, well,
doesn't mean we want it right now, but
right. So I will not do that to you. But what I will say is, I think he ends up being either 3rd or 4th amongst rookie receivers in terms of yardage. I think that he'll end up behind Neighbors. I think he'll end up behind possibly even Rome Odunze, and I think he'll end up behind. The surprise is probably Brian Thomas Jr., who I think is going to have a monster year. I think due to a combination of, one, being really, really good, and 2, I think Christian Kirk will be good, but I think the other pass catchers in Jacksonville may end up being sort of disappointing, at least by comparison. So he'll be somewhere in that 3rd, 4th spot, I think, amongst all rookie receivers. Still a solid season. I'm expecting about 852 yards in receptions and about
852 yards. Is that what you just said?
About 852 yards in receptions. And I'm expecting 7 touchdowns, and he's probably going to average about 14.4 yards per game. But roughly, but I think that
gotta love Bill. Roughly, approximately.
But I think.
He held it down to 1 decimal point.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good.
But I think that it will not be disappointing, except for those who are expecting him to immediately look like a Hall of Famer. I mean, he's going to have a solid, for a rookie, a very solid season. So unless your expectations are insane, which some people's are, you should not be disappointed.
Dave.
Yeah, Kelvin Beachum, teammate, tackle, also a former Steeler, he was just quoted as saying the other day, about Kyler Murray, I really feel that he's really starting to master this offense.
There you go.
Nice.
Now, granted, they have a new coach. This is the 2nd year of Gannon being the coach, but you have a 5-year veteran quarterback who's already been paid $100 million, and he's set to be made another $38 million. I would certainly hope he's mastered the offense after 2 seasons. But, maybe Marvin Harrison will be the piece that will help Murray earn some of that money.
Okay. Dave, the Titans go all in on Will Levis, trading the backup quarterback Malik Willis to the Packers for a 7th-round pick. And their backup is somebody that we are kind of familiar with, Mason Rudolph.
Yeah.
Dave,
It looked good in the preseason.
Hey, Dave, don't look so excited to talk about Mason Rudolph, bro.
I actually like Mason Rudolph, and right now,
I like him in the new uniform.
Demetrius pointed this out. Good. We're in a transition period. They just went through cut downs yesterday.
Yep.
Now the waiver period ended this afternoon, and now all of those people, the 1,000 or so players that are out there, they're free to negotiate with anybody that they want.
Yeah.
So teams aren't forced to put people on their 53-man roster or anything like that. So we're going to, over the next few days, probably through Monday, we're going to be seeing a lot of changes. So with Tennessee right now, they only have 2 quarterbacks now. They got Mason Rudolph and Will Levis. And Mason Rudolph is a very high character guy. And he really got hammered very unfairly by a player from another team. And I'm not going to go into that, but he really helped out the Pittsburgh at the end of last season. He played really, really well. Didn't do so well in the playoff game, but he's a solid guy and a very high character guy. So I'm happy for him. And Will Levis, now he got hurt last year. He came in the about mid-season, and then later on he had like an ankle sprain. So there's chances are that Mason Rudolph is going to get a chance to play. But talking about Malik Willis, he has to be part of one of the worst quarterback classes of history. And I wrote these down. So here's the class that Malik Willis is in. All of the draft picks. Kenny Pickett, he's with the Eagles as their second string quarterback. He was the only first round pick. Desmond Ridder was just released by the Cardinals. Malik Willis was traded to the Packers. Matt Corral, he was just waived by the Vikings. Bailey Zapp was just waived by the Patriots. Sam Howell, he's the number 2 quarterback in Seattle. Chris Oladuncan, he was released by the Chiefs. And the only 2 quarterbacks, or the last 2 selected, that are with the team that drafted them, Skylar Thompson, who's the second quarterback with the Dolphins, and Brock Purdy, who's the bet, who was Mr. Irrelevant. But that has got to be one of the worst quarterback classes. It's only 2 years old, and they're all with different teams except for those last 2 guys. But with Rudolph, I'm happy for him. I hope that Will Levis has a good season, but chances are Mason Rudolph is going to see some playing time, just the way with the 17-game season, just the way it goes.
My bold-ish prediction is that Sam Howell rejuvenates his career either in Seattle or someplace and becomes the second best, though I don't think he catches Purdy, but ends up becoming the second best out of that class once all said and done.
Yeah, well, he got hurt by the team that drafted him. He went into a bad situation.
Correct. And he looked really good at times.
Good evening, Mr. Scott. How are we doing this evening?
Very good. Very good.
Glad you could come by and join us this evening.
Yeah, it was great to hear. I just caught the tail end of this, hearing about some of the quarterbacks. I wondered that anybody, it's so wonderful to see the great Bill Carroll and some of the others, but I'm just wondering what the thoughts are on Sam Darnold. I mean,
I'm glad that you came in, Mr. Scott, because it is just in time for our Vikings question. Because I wanted to ask you first, and then I will pass your question around to the panel. But what is going on? You got your tight end is on the PUP list. he's going to be missing at least 4 weeks. You got what's the status with Addison? And I guess as you're saying, how is Jefferson going to impact? Darnold going to impact Jefferson's numbers?
Well, those are all some very good questions. The truth of the matter is that our GM and especially the GM, Mr. Analytics, he's Mr. Wall Street. He's his neck's on the line here. I mean, hell, what was it? His first #1 draft pick, Lewis Sine from Georgia, never played, and then they jettisoned him. Finally jettisoned the young man, not even giving him a chance. So I don't know. I'm just concerned about the Sam Darnold situation. I mean, I think that's the mystery key as to what's going to happen. I mean, the division looks better. I mean, was it Green Bay just got another quarterback to go behind their starter? Didn't they? I thought I heard that.
Malik Willis for his 7th round draft pick.
Yeah. And so we have the great Nick Mullins, and then we have Jared. So it's very concerning, especially with Detroit there and Chicago. So what is going on? And then to get rid of Nwango? Oh my goodness! Why in the world would you jettison him? He looks like he had potential. Looked like he was going to be a great contribution to the running backs. Dalvin Cook goes to Dallas. I mean, I don't know. Right now, I'm just kind of in a real quandary as to what's going on up here. I just have to get used to the change, differences, and I'm concerned that we might not be any good. We might be just down there at the bottom with Pittsburgh. We might be just down there with teams like that. So.
I'm sorry, he slipped that one in on me. I wasn't ready.
I noticed how he slipped that one in, but I'm going to go to your nemesis here and ask him first, and then us Pittsburgh guys will gang up on you. Go ahead.
Me? Talk about Minnesota or talk about the Lions?
Talk about Minnesota.
He
wants to know about Sam Darnold.
Oh yeah, so the conversation he caught, we were talking about a specific draft class, which is why we didn't mention Sam Darnold. We were talking specifically about the 2022 draft class. I happen to like Sam Darnold. I think you're going to be happier than you think with Sam Darnold because I think he came into a bad situation and got a raw deal right out. I think he's talented. I don't think Sam Darnold is going to be your problem. I think you lost a lot on defense. If Hawkinson is not too hurt and he's fine, eventually your offense is going to be fine because you got the best receiver on the planet. I think you got a really good tight end when he's healthy. I'm not worried about your offense. I mean, your offense gives me fits at night, quite frankly. It's your defense. You lost Hunter. You lost Davenport. I think you lost the linebacker Kendrick, right? You lost a lot on defense. And that's what worries me about Minnesota. It's not the offense. I think you'll be fine with Darnold. I like Sam Darnold. I've always liked Sam Darnold.
Don, what do
Yes.
you think about Sam Darnold?
Sam Darnold, he's one of these guys that you expect great things. He sometimes doesn't deliver, but then when you expect him to not do so good, he delivers. I mean, he's he works on his consistency, but I think he's a talented quarterback. I think he's just one short of being what I call a gamer, but he still has a few more years in the league. I have nothing against him. I think he's, like I said, he's capable of doing great things. He just needs to be consistent about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like Arnold. I like him.
Bill.
I'll go back to my scouting report on him when he was at USC. I said his potential, his upside is similar to a guy like, here you go, Tony Romo. At his best, he could be a guy who ends up having a Tony Romo kind of career. And he's in a situation that should set him up for that, right? Assuming Hawkinson comes back after he is healthy-ish, which may take 4 to 6 games, but comes back at some point. with the rest of that talent that you have there on offense. And if the offensive line improves even a little over what it was last year, because Darnold's been behind some bad offensive lines before, this, I think, is better than some of the ones he's seen. To him, it may not look as bad as it may look to somebody else. So I won't be surprised at all if he has a above the middle line kind of season. If he ends up being a top 15, 14 quarterback, I will not be surprised one iota.
Agree. Totally agree.
Dave.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Darnold is an unproven quarterback. You know, he's now on his fourth team since he came into the league in 2018. And but I mean, if he has a line that can protect him, he has a great wide receiver. You know, he can get the ball to people. So if he has the pieces around him, he should be able to perform. He should be able to demonstrate that, yeah, he is an NFL caliber quarterback. And I just think that he's unproven. He's going to have unfortunately, with the injury to their draft pick, he's going to have the chance now to demonstrate whether he can be an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, he's never played with a receiver this good.
Right.
And when Hawkinson's healthy, he's never played with a tight end this good. And that's a quarterback's best friend. So to Bill's point, this might be the best offensive line he's ever had. And I'm not saying the offensive line's great. I'm saying what he's played before. To Darnold specifically, I don't think you need to worry about Sam Darnold. There's other things you can worry about. My opinion.
As you gentlemen could see, I had to leave for a minute. Grandma called me with some insulin money. So, Mr. Scott, I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is. I think that we'll have a better record than the Vikings.
Oh, when you're saying we, are you talking about the hapless?
Who hapless? Whatever you would like to call us, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. You can call us hapless, and I'll call the Vikings hopeless.
That's awesome.
So
you're on. You're on.
There it is. I think it's on wax.
You know, because that quarterback situation, I think is still so fragile with Russell Wilson and you know the other guy that they really want to play the other guy. It's really clear that that's what they want to do, but he can't make up his mind. And I think this is a swan song for your great coach. I really do. He's been there long. He's always past his use by date. Yeah, they think that. Yeah, so you're on with that, Uncle James. You're on.
I got a crisp $10 bill or a $20 bill, whichever one you like.
Nice.
Well, I mean, I think I'm still ahead from the last one. I don't think I ever got. And then I think I had something with Demetrius, and I don't think I've ever got paid from anybody on this thing.
That's bullshit. I do not make wagers on podcasts. That never happened.
Yes.
That never happened. I don't make wagers. I mean, we might have made one this year, but that's fine. We haven't done it. I feel like Dave, Bill, and Don would like us to settle all this shit at some other time.
Let's talk about your Detroit Lions there.
Yes, let's do that.
What's going on with your Lions? We have seen a couple signings with the Lions.
Yeah.
What's happening there?
Not a lot. We're good, so there wasn't a whole lot. I mean, we're a Super Bowl caliber team, so we weren't going to get some massive turnover, right? There's a couple of surprises. There's a tight end that made the roster that they like for a lot of reasons. A linebacker we got from Kansas City, Ben Neiman, made it. But our team is kind of set. We had a weakness at wide receiver 3, if you want to call that a weakness. So we went out and signed Tim Patrick from Denver and Allen Robinson. But in our offense, that's the 5th guy. You know, it's St. Brown 1, Laporta 2, J-Mo 3, Gibbs 4. So the 5th guy for 40 catches, Just come in, catch the passes we need you to. You're not going to stop us from going to the Super Bowl. So we just didn't. We were set. Our 22 was set. Hell, our 32 was set. Our camp was about settling 8 or 9 roster spots at the back end of the roster, because we really were set coming into camp. You know, we revamped the secondary. You know, I don't need to do a whole big song and dance. I told you guys 2 years ago on this podcast that this was the year the Lions. I said it. It's on wax. I'll pull it up, show you next week. I said it on this very podcast that the Lions were 2 years away from being in. They got there a year early, NFC Championship. I think they're right now on paper. I think we're the best team in the NFC. I think San Francisco's got to figure out Ayuk. They got to figure out Trent Williams. They've got issues. Philadelphia quarterback hates the coach. Nobody wants to talk about Jason Kelce. He was just probably the best center in the league that they lost, or Bradbury. Everybody just wants to say, oh, they got Saquon Barkley and they got the corner in the draft. Okay. I don't know if I sit here and I say to you, name a team that's definitely better than us in the NFC, and you've got a quick answer, then we're just watching different football. Because I don't know who that is. We didn't lose anybody. We got all 3 of our coaches back. I re-signed our quarterback, our best receiver, and our best lineman. Extensions. Everybody's happy, everybody's back, and everybody's good and young. I don't know what I'm supposed to say right now, other than I think we're going to the Super Bowl. I'm sorry. Do I possibly fear Kansas City or Houston or some of those teams on the other side? There's some good teams on the other side. I don't, on paper, I think we're the best team. I think we dominated San Francisco for a half and then gave them the NFC Championship game.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Going for it on fourth down.
No. Got to watch more football. Players make plays. My favorite player in the history of football is a receiver named Herman Moore. He said something very simple. If both my hands touch the ball, I'm supposed to make the catch. Now, Josh Reynolds is no longer a Detroit Lion. It's not a coincidence that he dropped a 4th down pass that would have probably sealed the game. And then he dropped a 3rd down pass that would have probably allowed us to kill the clock. I'm not going to talk about the fumble by Gibbs or the ball that bounces off a corner's helmet. We lost that game. Sometimes we get beat. Sometimes you lose. We lost that game. And I'm cool with it because almost everybody's back. The coach, the OC, the DC, the quarterback playing his best football, another good draft. I'm sorry. I'm listening to arguments if you guys got something telling me why we are probably not the best team in the NFC. I don't know what they are.
Well, I've said it before. If the dog hadn't stopped to doo-doo, he'd have caught the rabbit.
I don't know what that has to do with anything we're talking about. Dogs and rabbits have nothing to do with anything. It is that we were in the NFC Championship game, dominated for a half, and then made 4 critical mistakes in the second half. It's not about dogs and rabbits and doo-doo. It's not. It's about a really good football team that got better because we had a weakness in the secondary and we fixed it. We're better than we were last year, and we were a half away from the Super Bowl. There's no dogs, no doo-doo, no rabbits. Just a really good football team that plays in Detroit. That's all I'm saying.
Don, let's talk about your guys down here in Texas. CD got his bag, 4 years, $136 million, making him the 2nd highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. $100 million guaranteed, $38 million signing bonus. My math has to be off somewhere here because to me, $100 million guaranteed and 38 is 138 mil, but
38 is part of the guaranteed 100 million.
Right. Okay. 38 is what he got today.
Okay.
100 will be guaranteed money over the next couple of years. Yeah.
So that makes his annual salary at $34 million, just behind Justin Jefferson. Don, what's going on? Now that you've settled CD, what's going on with Micah? What's happening with Dak?
Well, so if you remember last week, we discussed this, and I said within 10 days, Lamb will have his deal. I said Jerry will break and he'll cough it up, and sure enough, he did. He coughed up, a small fortune, but hey, and the Cowboys, we had nothing to show for. The Cowboys, if they make the playoffs, they'll lose the first game. So, Same old, right? But you know, Lamb's a great receiver. Don't get me wrong, but Cowboys have more pressing needs than, you know, a billion-dollar wide receiver. I mean, Jerry likes the shiny object, and he'll go for it every time. That's been proven. But you know, the Cowboys have a very talented roster. You know, you can talk about Michael Parsons. I mean, that guy is, you know, hopefully we'll get him squared away. I think Dak is probably on his last year of being a Cowboy. I don't see the Cowboy Nation having that lack of success in the playoffs. I don't think they'll stand for that much longer. But I guess ultimately that's Jerry's choice. But I just don't see. Cowboy fans are very entitled for no reason, because they haven't seen the Super Bowl since the 90s. But it's crazy what goes on in Texas sometimes.
Mr. Scott, what's your thoughts on the Cowboys?
Well, you know, I just have to ditto the last comments. I think this is make or break for Dak, but then there seems to be a good push to give him another bag. I keep hearing people saying that he deserves it and he should get it, and so I think this is their make or break type of a year. I mean, with Dak, the fact that they went ahead and paid CD Lamb, it sounds like Jerry wants the bag, and he says he's the greatest GM. And who's better? You know, he says nobody's better than him as a GM. You know, so this is the year that they have to, with Dak. It has to really happen, and I'm not talking about 10 wins. I'm talking about, I'm talking about 12, 13, 14 wins. This has to be their year. So can they make it? I think this could be the last hoorah.
Did Jerry Jones actually say he was the best GM in the league? He said that?
Well, I thought I heard that somewhere.
Wow. Hey, Brad Holmes on line one, Jerry. Sorry. What? Okay.
I guess CD Lamb, I think today said he was
about it.
To be paid.
What were you saying there, Dave?
I think CD Lamb, I think it was today, after he signed his contract, he said now it's time to get Dak Prescott paid.
Awesome.
Bill.
Thought I heard that.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have a wellness check on Brad Holmes, Howie Roseman.
Exactly.
I'm going to make sure Brett Beach is okay. And just in case you're wondering, that guy in Los Angeles, we predict the Rams are going to be a total dumpster fire in the last couple of years. Guess what?
Yeah.
They're still a really competitive team, mostly built around aging veterans and low-round draft picks. But they keep drafting the right guys in the late rounds.
Right.
So somebody's doing something right also in Los Angeles. But to your point, or to the point that has been implied, Rain Dakota Prescott is probably going to be a quarterback getting paid really well by someone next year. Short of a Super Bowl appearance, I don't think they care if they win 17 games in the regular season. If, as Don pointed out, if they literally run the table, win every game in the regular season, are knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, or first round they play in, Cowboys fans are going to still lose their minds. Because, once again, their birthright is the Super Bowl. As Don pointed out, they've been going without their birthright for going on 33 years now. So I can understand it must be a frustration for someone who indeed believes that, at least to some extent, the league revolves around them. I think that some of those teams sort of on the rise, let's say the Raiders have a good season this year, but do it sort of in spite of their quarterback play, and he hits the free agent market, I could see the Raiders making a play. There's a few teams that would be interested in Rain Dakota Prescott if he should indeed hit the open market, and well, there ought to be. But I do believe that it will be better for everyone involved if some of the pieces are moved around to different chessboards. they need a shock to their system. Something has to change in Dallas. And they seem unwilling to fire the coach. And the coach is winning a good number of games. I mean, it's sort of, what we whine about in Pittsburgh about, well, we win a lot of games, but. And Jerry has made it very clear he would like to win a Super Bowl before he dies. He's said it various ways on multiple occasions. And he's 77, 70. I don't remember exactly his age, but he's at the point where he's closer. He's not just on the back nine; he's on the back four, probably, maybe back three of the course of life. So he's probably going to try to do some things to get this thing moving along. And if it looks like Rain Dakota Prescott, because quarterbacks get too much blame and too much credit, usually it's not all on him. But either way, the coach or the quarterback are going to be gone, and possibly both, if they don't go. I think a Super Bowl appearance is what it would take to save them together. One or both of them is gone. Anything, I believe, short of a Super Bowl appearance. I think definitely one and done means maybe they're both gone, but definitely one's gone.
Demetrius, do you concur?
Oh, Dallas? Yeah, I think Dallas is just a kind of a weird TV show that we all have to watch, and I don't think they're very good. And I think Bill just they had to sign CD. That was smart. I don't think they got better than they were last year. So I don't know. And I think Dak playing on the last year, I don't know how that's good for your culture, for guys who may think about coming there or guys who are there to say, not to bring up my team, but in this offseason, they signed Goff, St. Brown, and Penei Sewell, none of whom they had to sign this year. They chose to sign them. Lock them up now. That's a culture message, right? CD had to wait long and cry for his bag. I don't think they want Dak Prescott. I don't think you let a quarterback you like play on the last year of his. You don't do that. That's unheard of. I mean, like I said, Dave or Bill can probably name somebody. I don't know. But if I love my quarterback,
you have to go back to Joseph Peter Flacco, right? The last time a guy got to this point. And then he took him to the Super Bowl and won, and he got his money.
Right. Exactly. And like I said, again, using my team, the Lions were never letting Jared Goff get close to taking a snap on the last year of a deal. That's absurd. If you like the guy and you think he's good, you don't do that. So somebody somewhere is telling Dak, they don't like you, they don't want you. Jerry's the best GM in the league. He thinks he can go find somebody else. And so, again, Bill nailed it. Dak will be in Vegas next year, and Dallas will have a different quarterback.
What do you think, Dave?
Well, I mean, they had to pay CD Lamb, but with Dak Prescott, how old is he now? 32?
Dak? Yeah, CD's younger. Yeah, Dak is. I think Dak's 31. Something like that. And so I tend to agree. If they don't win, it's not going to be the fans. It's going to be Jerry Jones that's going to cut bait with Dak Prescott. And and I don't know what that portends for Dallas's future. Now the thing is the NFC East. The Commanders are rising. They have a new coach. They're trying to rise, but they're not a great team. Somebody had mentioned the Eagles before. They've lost some key players. They're not as good as they were. And you got the Giants, and I'm not sure about that Brian Dable. And so, Dallas kind of benefits from what to me is kind of a weak division.
Well, I think they've always benefited from that. It's always been either Philadelphia or Dallas. It's been a long time since the Commanders have really contended. I think.
But I mean, that's going to be their road. I mean, they're going to benefit from that. So they may have a winning record, maybe in the playoffs. But what do they do once they get in the playoffs?
Well, now I'm going to pose a question to you guys that's not really on here, but I've asked it before. If Dak is going to be a $60 million quarterback, let's say $55 million, does that make Brock Purdy the next $60 million quarterback next year when his contract is up, or when he goes in for his extension off that
No,
contract?
no, not at all. Not at all. I think. I'm sorry. I'm just going to jump in and say some of what you're talking about is the next guy just keeps going, but then sometimes you have to acknowledge what a guy is, and what I believe Brock Purdy is a good quarterback in a really good system. And I don't know that San Francisco gives him more money than Patrick Mahomes, because they probably believe in their system they can find someone else to do it. And if somebody will give Brock Purdy, no, I'm sorry. I think there's still common sense somewhere in this league. I just think so. And the day Brock Purdy is making more than Patrick Mahomes, I might have to stop watching.
No, I said Dak.
No. But you said will then Brock Purdy get even more than Dak? Was that the question?
Yeah.
No. He shouldn't get more than Dak. Dak shouldn't get more than Mahomes, but he probably will until Mahomes redoes his deal. But it should be a world where I just think San Francisco believes they have a system, and Brock fits their system.
Yep.
I don't know that Brock fits every system. He fits their system, but I don't know if he fits their system to the tune of $60 million per. So, because I think you can get somebody else. This is my opinion.
What do you think, Mr. Scott?
Well, sometimes it's like the pay doesn't equal performance. And that's the pay is. Look at Kirk Cousins. Gets the bag. One playoff win. Coming off a serious injury, Achilles, but yet and still gets huge money, guaranteed $100 million. So it's just
Kirk Cousins has a decade of really good work, though. Kirk Cousins is
really
a decade
good work.
A decade of work.
Is really good work. Really good work is really good work, but it's not. It's still one playoff win.
I know, but I think his deal is only paying him 40-something, 42 or 43. The $100 million guarantee. Well, I'm just saying.
And Minnesota's paying the rest, kind of like Pittsburgh.
Yeah, everybody knows the former Redskins overpaid him because they mismanaged the franchise tag, and then you guys gave him a massive bag of money. He's a bank. We call him the banker for a reason.
That's what I'm saying. You're not necessarily paid for performance.
He went to Michigan State. He's a smart man. He went to Michigan State.
My friends, is why he's number 2 all time on the SBQFI, the Sam Bradford Quarterback Finesse Index.
Exactly. The namesake got the most.
Don, what's your thoughts here? Is Brock Purdy the next $60 million quarterback, if not Dak?
Well, not now, but let me tell you about Brock Purdy. And I've followed his career from years, but that dude, he has that little cute little face and kind of boyish, oh shucks, type personality. That dude's a stone cold killer. He's ice cold, man. And I'm telling you right now, underestimate him at your own peril, because he's a bad mofo. Let me tell you. I'd put him in the top 5 in the league as quarterbacks go.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay, top 5. All right.
I'm telling you, he's.
Here's what I will say.
Do you want Josh Allen in your team or Brock Purdy? I think right now he's better than Josh Allen.
I don't know about that, but
okay. Well, we need to define certain things.
Now we're getting
absurd. Really as talented as Josh Allen, but he processes things. This is what makes Purdy special. When coaches go back and look, they're like, this kid's right, like 92.5% of the time on every decision he makes. When you look back at the tape and it's Josh Allen, even now he's right about 66% of the time on the decisions he makes.
Yeah.
So it depends on what you like in a quarterback. Obviously, if they get off the bus together, you say, which one of these guys you want to start your franchise with, you're going to have to think long and hard about not picking Josh Allen or Anthony Richardson or somebody that looks like that. But Brock Purdy, as he pointed out, yes, he looks like the paper boy. Yes, his arm is dead on average. Yes, he can move around a little bit, but he's not scaring you as a runner. There's nothing about him physically he basically is this era's version of Bob Greasy, where you look at him and think, that guy's an NFL quarterback? But then you look at what he's accomplished and you say, I mean, if he continues on this pace, he's going to be on a short list of guys. And once again, I'm not a person that believes in QB wins and crap like that. But his efficiency numbers, if you're a numbers guy, Demetrius, his efficiency numbers are historic. If he continues on this path, he's going to have one of the greatest careers, at least in terms of all the efficiency metrics you could ever want. You could ever want. His touchdown interception ratio is going to be in the top maybe 3 all time if he continues on this path. He's already on the trajectory of being one of the most efficient quarterbacks we've ever seen, ever. Now, is the system, once again, that's true of every quarterback. It's true of Montana, right? I mean, pick anybody you want to. If no quarterback's been great in a system that's bad for them, that's never happened. So every quarterback that's ever been great was in a system that was good for them, right? It just happens. He isn't, but you drop him in Cincinnati, he's not going to suck. I promise you. I promise you. You drop him if you drop him in New York, he's going to look bad, right? I mean, there's at least in terms of the Giants, because that's but outside of bad situations or systems that call for a quarterback to be a freak athlete, eliminate terrible situations and eliminate systems that are built on the quarterback creating with his ability to, make things happen physically, make off-balance, off-platform throws 40 yards or run people over or run away from people. That's not his skill set. But decision-making, I mean, you're like me. You like to go back and dig through and rewatch games 4 or 5 different times. His decision-making is as good as it gets. I don't know if there's a better.
All right, guys. Well, let's kind of move on here. I just kind of threw that out there because
you shouldn't have. Don't you know us yet, James?
Well, the thing of it is, is like I do believe, I have to kind of side with Mr. Scott about performance and numbers, but I'm thinking that the numbers are going to overreach performance here. Judging on the present scale. But Dave, Mike Tomlin was not happy with the play of rookie cornerback Bishop. And did Russ really do enough to be named the starting day quarterback? And Dave, I got to ask you, where do we start? Cornerback, offensive line, defensive lineman. What do we do here? I mean, it's very critical that we start out with a winning record. We have to, out of our first 8 games, we need to win at least 6. 5 is realistic, but our second half of the season is brutal. What's your thoughts here, Dave?
Well, you put out a lot out there, but first of all, I got to dispel something. Mike Tomlin never said that he was unhappy with Beanie Bishop's play. He did play him in the second half of the game, but that was because what he explained was that his lack of availability during practice. And then once he did start practicing, well, he hadn't practiced enough to bump up. And Graham, who did play in the first half, well, he was released, but Beanie Bishop wasn't. So that should tell you where Mike Tomlin holds Beanie Bishop. And then also, on Monday, he was reportedly working out with the number 1 team. But that said, he might not be the answer in the slot corner. They got some issues there. The thing about Russell Wilson, people have been trying to make a big thing, and even Mike Tomlin fed into it a little bit, kind of delaying the announcement of who was going to be starting. Anybody that follows the Steelers closely, anybody that's listened to Mike Tomlin talk, knew that Russell Wilson was the starting quarterback from day one. And the idea, like this third game, that they kept him in for one series, they finally, scored. And then took him out. And then that tells you right there, that's he didn't need to see anymore. That's his starter. He wanted an extended look at Justin Fields because Justin Fields may not be playing as much once the regular season starts. So I think that it was Russell Wilson's job all along. He had a little bit of a delay because of his injury, but week 1 it's going to be Russell Wilson. And maybe Tomlin was trolling Raheem Morris about whether he should be prepared for, maybe some running packages for Justin Fields. So, maybe we'll get to see a little bit of Justin Fields in a limited way early in the season. But the bigger concern right now is that in their practice today, Isaac Seumalo, their starting left guard, had a pec injury. So he's probably out for at least, luckily he didn't need surgery. Otherwise, he would have been out for the season. But now they've lost their left guard for at least 4 games. They're saying that he's going to be out for at least a month. So right now, they got to make a decision. Is it Mason McCormick, who they just drafted, or is it Spencer Anderson, who's in his second year? Are they going to fill in for him, or are they going to look outside to bolster that offensive line? Because now you got a rookie, Zach Frazier, who's going to be the starting center. You got Broderick Jones, who's been underperforming. And so then, you may have Troy Fautanu, who was just drafted, coming off a knee injury that might have to start. And they may go back to Dan Moore at left tackle. So he was outperforming Broderick Jones. I mean, that's the bottom line. Broderick Jones.
I outperformed Broderick Jones on the couch. I outperformed Broderick Jones on the couch.
Yeah, he was just getting tossed aside. In the last game. So, the second preseason game. He played better in the third preseason game, but they were playing against the Lions backups. And so, yeah, he didn't dominate, but he wasn't giving up sacks. But they were playing against the Lions reserves at that point. So right now, to me, the biggest priority is they got to fix this offensive line, because if you don't have an offensive line, Russell Wilson is not going to survive very long. Justin Fields is more athletic and he's more mobile, but you're going to have a hard time. And then you have the gunner problem. You finally have a punter that can punt long consistently, but the other teams were having some big returns. So Cameron Johnston's net punting average was not as impressive as his gross punting average. So they got to find a gunner, which I'm sure that they're looking. Miles Boykin became available, so maybe they'll pick up somebody like that. And then you got the slot corner. Beanie Bishop's a great story, undrafted free agent, but again, a rookie. Are you going to trust him to be your main guy at nickel? I think that they want to use him, but not in a huge role like that. So, the Steelers right now, they're kind of hurting. And so I see them right now anywhere between a 7-10 and a 10-17. That's where they are. And one is because they're in a tough division. Baltimore's good, Cincinnati's good. Cleveland is in a little bit of disarray, but they still have a lot of strength on their roster.
Defense is good.
Yeah, but they lost Chubb for now. But still, they're in a tough division. They got a very tough thing. So I don't know what's going to happen in that Atlanta game. It's an important game. I was thinking that they had a good chance of winning it before, but they got to fix that offensive line.
And we played the AFC West and the NFC North.
No,
don't
play the North.
I'd have to look at it.
The Ravens play the 49ers, right?
Yeah, they open against the 49ers. That's a
So
big game to open with.
yeah, so we play the AFC, the NFC West,
There you go.
and who else? I thought we played that.
Well, they're going to be playing the Cowboys this year.
Yeah. So it's the NFC West and the NFC East that we're playing.
Nope, not playing them both. you get one, and I know it's not the North. So I don't know your schedule though. So, but yeah, I know we.
Well, Dave has just solidified my bet, James. So the bet is on. You know, it's solidified. You're going to be a sub 500 team. The Vikings.
That is not the bet. That is not the bet. The bet is that we have a better record than the Vikings.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's the way I'm taking.
Because we know the Vikings are going to be sub 500.
I'm taking your bet, and I've got witnesses here. I know some of the witnesses are extremely biased, but they are here, and this is on tape. So sometimes it's almost like you're watching when you go watch CNN. Okay, you see something happen, then you go watch Fox, and it's a whole different swim on the thing. So
is it a 10 or a 20?
Okay, so
I don't want to hurt you, so it's a 10. I haven't got that's a 10.
For those who are wondering,
okay,
who are playing in the NFC, is the NFC East.
Playing the East, James. Dallas Giants, Eagles.
Yeah, that's what I thought. The East, and we play the AFC West, right? I mean the NFC West. If the Ravens are playing the 49ers.
That could be
what they're doing is some of those games are based on the first place team plays the other first place team.
Yeah. That's the first place schedule part.
Okay. All right. Okay, understood. Let's start final thoughts here. Bill.
Well, as has been pointed out, we are now at the time of year that we all have been waiting for, I mean, it seems like years, but it's actually been a few months. We are so conditioned, or at least I'll speak for myself, I am so conditioned to build so much of my life around the game of football that when it goes away, even though it's not gone that long, I do feel a void in my life. And this is, something that I don't do for a living. I mean, it's something I do because I am passionate and I love it. And I think about all those young and sometimes not so young men that have had their lives thrown into at least temporary disarray. For some of them, it'll fall back into place pretty soon. They'll go back either on the active roster due to someone else being moved or injury or what have you, or some of them will go back to where they were on, the developmental, aka practice squad. But for some of them, though they don't know it, they will never play professional football again. We talked about people who knowingly retire, right? William Stephen Belichick knew he was retiring when he retired. Well, to some extent knew he was retiring when he retired, though he was sort of pushed out the door, but still he must have seen it coming. It could not have been an entire shock. While for some of these young men who will never play another down of NFL football, some of them are 100% certain that they will play it again and are working on it, right? Conditioning themselves, eating and lifting and running and doing all the things you do to get ready, and it just won't happen again, though they don't know it yet. So I definitely think about, on this day at this time, this incredibly dynamic, exciting time to some extent where, people are finding the beginnings of their careers or being named starters or being named to active rosters. And like I said, it's even practice squad, but some of them, there's not enough spaces for all the people capable of playing professional football at the highest level. There are people who are very much capable of playing football at the very highest level, as well as anybody to some extent. I mean, better than most, right? Better than all but 1/10 of 1% of the people who play football. And despite that, because of the situation, because of a lot of things that go into whether or not you make a team, they will end up doing something else. They'll end up, as the commercial likes to say, going pro in something other than sports. And I think about young men that I've known, young men that I've covered, young men that I've followed. I remember a young man named Wyatt Geyer who was, I think, the best in his year, the best Division III defender in all of Division III football. He spent a little time in Bengals camp, looked really good in a couple of preseason games, and the numbers just didn't work out. He was at a couple other camps briefly and then became a deputy sheriff in Erlanger County, Kentucky. And I watched this kid extensively. And yes, I understand level of competition, blah, blah, blah. But you can't tell me, based on all the other guys I watched, and I watched hundreds and hundreds of guys, he couldn't have hung around for at least a little while as a 3-4 outside linebacker as a rotational player. There's guys no better than him that managed to carve out 6, 7, 8-year careers. But it just, like I said, situation, timing, all these things come into play. And for so many of these young men, it won't happen. And so my final thoughts are with these young men, some of them in their early 20s who unknowingly are going to be retired, whether they know it or not, from professional football.
Dave, your final thoughts.
Yeah. We often go talk about the owners and the players, and the owners are taking advantage of the players and the players' contracts, and it's kind of like a two-way thing. But I really see it, the NFL, in sports in general, there's a third part. To me, there's a tripod there, and the third part are the fans. And after all, I mean that's who's paying at the end of the day for all this. And because they watch TV or they stream and all this kind of stuff. Well, ESPN made a proposal to the NFL to offer a single game package to watch all 17 games for $70. And I tell you, for me, I would jump all over that in a heartbeat because I really don't care about most of the other teams. I want to see the Steelers, and for $70, what a great deal. NFL turned it flat down. Just not enough money. And to me, the greed of the owners and the players, it makes me nauseous at times. It really does. To see what's transpiring, everybody, and it's both the owners and the players. It's the system. I don't blame people for trying to make as much money as they can, but sometimes it just the greed is too much. It reminds me of if you've ever been to a birthday party, a Latin birthday party where they had the piñata, where you're banging the donkey with the stick, and then it breaks open. And then and if they're not supervised, you have all these kids scrambling to get as much candy as they can. The bigger kids elbowing the little kids out of the way, and they're the ones that get the most candy. And I've never really liked, even as a kid, I never really liked it. This mad scramble. And so I just wish that both the owners and the players would take the fans into account and to try to make it more affordable for the everyday fans. And that's my final thought for the day. I know that it runs counter to the trends of everything: more money, more gambling money, more fantasy money, more this. But who's getting squeezed out are like the families. They can't go to games. They can't afford to go to the games. Companies are all buying, a lot of tickets. So, anyway, that's my final thought. ESPN, I thought, had a great deal there, and if the NFL, if they thought anything about the fans, they would have taken that deal.
Yeah. Well, $70. Come on, Dave. Yeah. They want at least triple that. Yeah. Don.
Yes.
Your final thoughts.
Well, I went to a message board and just discovered today that some kid, or I guess his mom in North Carolina, high school kid, he's being recruited, has sued the state of North Carolina because they're not letting him get NIL. Guys, we've gone too far. That's all I'm going to say.
Mr. Scott.
Well, I'll just kind of piggyback on what Dave was saying about the access, because they had taken the Twins, they just got back on this, what is it, Valley Sports or Diamond. So you actually could not see the games. And I mean, in the summertime, I mean, that's kind of my diversion, to watch baseball, to see the baseball games. And they were just not accessible. And so my son brings me this thing. He says, "Hey, Dad, here's a Fire Stick. You can do this." I'm like, well, okay. So I've got to go through this. And so I've still got it sitting up here. I suppose I'll try it. But now they've just put it back on. But it's just for the baseball is just for this year. And they've got to go back to the table. And it may not, or somebody else may have it. And then I saw something about Major League Baseball was going to take over for certain teams. And I think they already have for certain teams. Somehow baseball has taken over, but then you have to pay them. So it's just really, that was really frustrating to not be able to just turn on the Twins game and follow them. Even though I'm very upset with their manager, I don't think he knows what he's doing. He has no idea about lineups. I mean, he might have the catcher Ryan Jeffers bat first, Eddie Julian in cleanup. I mean, that bullpen is trash, but still they're a few games out. And then what about these closers? What about the different positions they just sent, now that they have the minor league system in St. Paul, they have a minor league team in St. Paul. So they just bus people back and forth to St. Paul. I mean, they'll bring him for one game, go back the next day, go back. So it's just really interesting how he's managing, because he has a bullpen of at least 25 or 30 pitchers, and half of them are in St. Paul, and they just come up and come back, and the weird lineups. It's just, I guess it's a matter of getting used to this stuff, like the college football. The Gophers play tomorrow. They play North Carolina. And so a lot of the old rivalries, always playing Ohio State, always playing Michigan, It's just, so it's a new world. And I guess it's just about getting used to it. I saw Demetrius has his Fire Stick. I shouldn't be surprised that he's, jumped on it for anybody, but
Absolutely.
I'm the one behind. Okay, I'm the one.
Yeah. So did we just lose our host? Where's our guest?
Yeah.
His Fire Stick went out. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure he's all right. There he is. All right.
I got my Fire Stick too.
Yep. If you live in a city that's not your home, you have to. David, you got to get one. It's the greatest thing. It's the best investment I've ever made.
I'm telling you.
I could do a whole final thoughts, but
it is your final thoughts.
Okay, so. My turn. I'm not going to do that. Every now and then, I just like to celebrate great players, especially old ones that I feel like people haven't acknowledged well and forgotten about. And since Bill's on, and I need him to wake up. All right, there he is. So Don might know, Mr. Scott might know. I'm going to do it the way I do, where I'm just going to start naming off stats about him, see if they can guess who he is. It's basketball, David, so I don't know how much you love basketball. So, but I just came across his name earlier. I thought, I don't know if we acknowledge this guy. So just quickly, some of the stats. 9-time All-Star, 3-time ABA All-Star, hint. All anniversary team, 50th anniversary, 75th anniversary. Happens to be a Detroit native. Coolest nickname in the history of basketball. 4-time scoring champ. 5-time All-NBA first team. The term prolific scorer.
Sounds like Dr. J.
Was not quite.
George
The
Gervin.
term prolific scorer was probably come up for him. He was probably the one. So
Yeah, the Iceman. Yep.
good answer. Not the right one. So you hear about guys being unstoppable. He if you take out his rookie season and his last season, he averaged 26 a game. That's got him ahead of Kareem, Larry Bird, who played in the same era, right? He's ahead of guys from now, like Steph Curry and Kobe, when they don't even play defense. He is 7th all time in field goal percentage, which is about making baskets for guards. That puts him ahead of Michael Jordan. And only John Stockton, who played 800 more games, really is close, right? If you normalize that data, take out these weird guys like Lewis Lloyd and Brad Davis, he's really top 5. Simply put, he got buckets. He got buckets when getting buckets used to be hard.
Yes.
And anybody want to guess?
It's got to be the Iceman, right?
Iceman. George
I said Gervin.
Yeah, you did. He said it. Don said it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don
Detroit
was
native.
first.
I was
Eastern Michigan University grad, I believe.
Michigan, number 24, retired. I was talking to some friends from Detroit, and we were doing sort of an all-time Detroit athlete thing. And once you get through the obviouses like Iserman, Gordie Howe, Barry Sanders, Isaiah, and those guys, somebody said, "What? Oh, Iceman was born in Detroit." And I was like, "Oh shit, really?" And then we had to rethink the list. Yeah. But George Gervin.
I thought Jerry Butler was the Iceman.
No, he might be. Yeah, different Iceman. Sorry, this is the Iceman. Some people call that dude Iceman. This is the Iceman. George Gervin played in San Antonio. I figured Don would know. But you want to pull up some clips of a dude who could get buckets in any way, getting buckets.
Long time alderman and committeeman here in the city of Chicago, as well as a member of the Impressions. Yes, we're very familiar with the Iceman. I'm familiar with both of them.
Both Iceman, yeah. But yeah. So I just wanted to. Sometimes I think we forget about some dudes that were really great because of these kids. Yeah. These kids now jacking up YOLO threes from half court because you can't play defense anymore. George Gervin would have been unstoppable. In this no defense, can't put your hands on a basketball player league now. Gervin would average 40 a game because he could score both hands anyway.
Yep.
Love George Gervin. So just wanted to give a shout out to the Iceman.
All right, guys. Well, hey, great show as always. Looking forward to, don't forget the fantasy season.
Yeah.
Don't forget to partner up with our guys from Smash Up Sports. If you guys haven't already, we have a Sportz Krib League. And Mr. Scott, I will be talking trash all season. So
well, we've got a $10, and I want to let you know right off the bat, while everybody's here, there will be no buyouts. Okay, won't be able to buy out. Maybe, that's not going to happen. There's no buyouts.
All right, guys. Have a great week. Look forward to talking to everybody next week.
Take care. Good seeing everybody.
All right. Bill, did you?
Yep.